When we think of computers today, we imagine slim laptops, powerful smartphones, or tiny boards running smart devices. But the journey of the computer stretches back thousands of years, across wars, revolutions, and human imagination. It all began with something very simple, the abacus, around 2700 BC in Mesopotamia, and later in China and India. Wooden beads sliding on rods, yet powerful enough to help merchants calculate trade. It wasn't a computer as we know it, but it carried the seed of an idea. Machines could help humans process information. Fast forward to the 17th century. The world was waking up to the scientific revolution. In 1642, Blaise Pascal built the Pascaline, a mechanical calculator that could add and subtract. Later, in 1672, Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, the man behind calculus, created a mechanical device capable of multiplication and division. But the true vision of a programmable computer emerged in the 19th century during the Industrial Revolution. In 1822, Charles Babbage, a British mathematician, designed the difference engine, followed by his ambitious analytical engine. Though never completed in his lifetime, it was the first design that looked like a modern computer. With a memory and a processor, Babbage's collaborator, Ada Lovelace, wrote the first algorithm for the machine, making her the world's first programmer.
Take a look in there, Mr. Thomas.
That's where your voice current has stepped up before it goes out into the ether, Lowell.
It's a whopper, isn't it?
They're among the largest tubes made, Mr. Thomas. They handle so much power that they have to be cooled by a circulating water system.
Yes, sir. If it weren't for these babies, there wouldn't be any radio. And worse yet, Bill and I'd be out of a job.
You bet.
Yes, and a million others owe their jobs to the vacuum tube, including myself. 25 years ago in New York, Alexander Graham Bell repeated the first words ever transmitted by telephone. "Mr. Watson, come here, I want you." But this time, the inventor's assistant laughed. "I can't make it under a week, Dr. Bell. I'm in San Francisco." It was the first transcontinental telephone conversation. This exchange of greeting marked the opening of transcontinental telephony. The same year saw speech transmitted across the Atlantic by the first radio telephone. Yet both of these miracles of communication developed from a single discovery, the vacuum tube. The story begins in 1883 with trouble, the breaking of the filaments of Thomas A. Edison's incandescent lamp. Observing that the break invariably occurred at the positive end of the filament, Edison reasoned that some unknown negative electrical particles were bombarding this end of the hot wire. Further experiments revealed that the flow of charged particles could be influenced by an extra wire sealed into the bulb of the lamp. Edison recorded this curious phenomenon in his notebook and turned to his many other inventions. It became known as the interesting but useless Edison effect. A generation later, Dr. Lee DeForest added a third element which transformed the Edison effect into a bottle of magic, the first vacuum tube. But it remained for Bell Telephone Laboratories scientists and engineers to perfect and commercialize the vacuum tube. Notable among this host of researchers for Western Electric and the Bell system were Drs. Jewett, Colpitts, Vanderbilt, and the late Dr. Arnold. With their colleagues, they developed the tube into a commercial sensation. And then in 100 specialized forms, they applied it to the facilities of electrical communication. All of these things and more are happening every day, happening because of a single product of industrial research. And while it was girdling the earth with speech, the vacuum tube added billions to our national income, raised our standard of living, produced numberless new conveniences. From it developed great and small new industries, the network of long-distance telephony, radio broadcasting, high-fidelity recorded music, talking motion pictures. This magic lamp has created 1 million jobs in every city and town and village in the country. Jobs in service and manufacture, jobs in entertainment and education. It has built 1,000 factories, opened 10,000 stores and shops, created vast demands for the raw materials of farms and mines and forests. All these things and more happened because of a single product of individual enterprise and the American way of life. And so long as they endure, there will be no end to the miracles of this modern Aladdin's lamp, the vacuum tube.
Now, let's step into the 20th century, a century defined by 2 world wars. During World War II, the demand for faster calculations for code-breaking, ballistics and radar drove computer innovation. In 1941, German engineer Konrad Zuse created the Z3, considered the first programmable digital computer. At the same time, in the US and Britain, efforts were underway. The Colossus, built in 1943 by Tommy Flowers, helped the Allies crack German codes.
So Colossus 1 was born.
Each rack would be wide, say at Dollis Hill. They would then come to Bletchley Park and erect it as units, and we would connect them all up.
We had a soldering iron. I'd never used a soldering iron before. There was 2 other girls and me, and I think maybe their fingers were nimble and small and could handle the soldering iron and the wire.
It took months and months to build the machine that would become the Colossus, but by 1943 he'd done so.
In 1946, the United States unveiled ENIAC, the Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer, filling an entire room with 18,000 vacuum tubes, yet able to perform 5,000 additions per second.
In February 1946, the U.S. government revealed to the public the existence of a secret computer, which had been developed under the code name Project PX. The computer was called ENIAC, a massive electronic digital computer. Begun in 1943, under the authority of the U.S. Army, the ENIAC was developed at the Moore School of Electrical Engineering at the University of Pennsylvania.
In 1947, the transistor, invented at Bell Labs, replaced bulky vacuum tubes. Thanks to John Bardeen, Walter Bratton, and William Shockley.
Ever assembled. The year, 1947. And this is one of the latest transistors, a much more sophisticated device, but based on the same physical principles as its ancestor. The impact of the transistor on the electronic industry and on our society is unquestioned. Its ability to operate for extended periods of time without changing. It can also transmit and amplify high-frequency signals at very high speed. All these features contribute to modern switching in computer systems. This tiny electronic device is the outcome of scientific research by trained men dedicated to understanding, working in an environment which fosters the uninhibited search for answers to riddles of science which are related to communications needs. For their discovery of the transistor effect, John Bardeen, Walter Brattain, and William Shockley in 1956 shared the highest honor in science, the Nobel Prize.
The first transistor computer was the Manchester transistor computer, a prototype demonstrated in November 1953 by the University of Manchester. It was not fully transistorized, however, using vacuum tubes for its clock signal. The Harwell Cadet and Tradic were completed in 1955 and were fully transistorized, but the Manchester TC prototype holds the distinction of being the earliest operational transistorized computer. The Cold War and the space race further accelerated the research. By the 1960s, integrated circuits, tiny chips invented by Jack Kilby and Robert Noyce, replaced rows of transistors, shrinking computers into machines that could sit on desks. This was the era of IBM System/360, a family of mainframes that powered businesses, governments, and NASA's Apollo missions to the moon.
These test engineers are checking out a sophisticated collection of telescopes, gyroscopes, and electronics for Project Apollo. This guidance and navigation system will be mounted in an Apollo spacecraft to aid our 3 astronauts on their voyage to the moon and return. The miniaturized computer at the very heart of this system is our story today on Science Reporter.
The 1970s brought the microprocessor. Enthusiasts like Bill Gates, Paul Allen, Steve Jobs, and Steve Wozniak sparked the personal computer revolution. In the 1970s, while Intel focused on developing the first commercial microprocessor, the Intel 4004, IBM released the IBM System/370 mainframe and other large systems. Other notable companies like Digital Equipment Corporation, DEC, produced mini-computers such as the PDP-11, and the earliest personal computer, the Kenback-1, was also introduced. The 1980s marked a pivotal era, where the personal computer became a global standard. In 1981, the corporate giant IBM set the foundational blueprint with the IBM PC. This hardware immediately established Microsoft's MS-DOS as the dominant operating system. MS-DOS rapidly became the undisputed platform, powering the countless PC clones that followed, and formalizing computing as a serious, essential tool for both offices and professionals.
The spirit of the entrepreneur is alive and well. More and more people anxious and willing to be their own boss. This week we're going to talk with 3 of what we call adventure capitalists about what it takes to take the big plunge. And we'll start with 28-year-old William H. Gates III, who was a teenager, co-founded Microsoft Corporation, now the world's foremost producer of computer software. In the incredibly competitive software business, Microsoft writes the rules. Its operating system runs more than 90% of IBM's personal computers, and it will provide much of the software for Macintosh, Apple's hot new computer.
Meanwhile, a fundamental shift was underway at Apple. They launched the pioneering Lisa in 1983, a testbed for new concepts. Then delivered a commercial breakthrough with the Macintosh in 1984. The Macintosh successfully commercialized the Graphical User Interface, GUI. This innovation moved computing away from complex, typed commands and introduced a more intuitive experience centered on the mouse, icons, and windows.
Today we celebrate the first glorious anniversary of the Information Purification Directives. We have created, for the first time in all history, a garden of pure ideology, where each worker may bloom, secure from the pests of vain contradictory thoughts. Our unification of thoughts is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
You've just seen some pictures of Macintosh. Now I'd like to show you Macintosh in person. All of the images you are about to see on the large screen will be generated by what's in that bag. Now, we've done a lot of talking about Macintosh recently, but today, for the first time ever, I'd like to let Macintosh speak for itself.
Hello, I am Macintosh. It sure is great to get out of that bag. And accustomed as I am to public speaking, I'd like to share with you a maxim I thought of the first time I made an IBM mainframe. Never trust a computer you can't live. Obviously I can talk, but right now I'd like to sit back and listen. So it is with considerable pride that I introduce a man who's been like a father to me, Steve Jobs.
Introducing Macintosh. It does all the things you'd expect a business computer to do. It does a lot of things you wouldn't expect a business computer to do. And it does some things no other business computer has ever done before. Of course, to do all this, you will have to learn to do this. Macintosh from Apple.
However, the PC revolution was driven by more than just these corporate rivals. Key machines like the highly popular Commodore 64, the established Apple II, the accessible VIC-20, and the Japanese market leader, the NEC PC-98, all played crucial roles. These computers collectively brought digital technology to the general public, into homes and small businesses, completing the transformation of the personal computer from a specialized instrument into an everyday necessity.
Windows 3.0 is quickly emerging as the standard user interface for the PC. And while Microsoft and Apple may be arguing in court over who owns the rights to the graphical user interface, or GUI, it's generally acknowledged that it really all began here at Xerox PARC, where back in the 1970s they started working with concepts like icons, windows, and WYSIWYG. Indeed, Xerox may be finally getting its revenge as it comes out with its own network GUI product for desktop PCs called Global View. Today we'll take a look at the graphical user interface, Windows 3.0 in particular, on this edition of the Computer Chronicles.
In the random access file this week, Xerox has announced a new PC desktop operating environment called Global View. This is the first time the famed Xerox PARC Group has introduced a product for the PC platform. Global View is a combination hardware and software product designed for PC networks. It uses an icon-based graphical interface. An old name in typewriters wants to become a new name in personal computers. Smith Corona has announced plans to introduce a line of PCs aimed at the home and small business market. The new machines will be developed jointly with the Acer Corporation and will be marketed under a new Smith Corona Acer brand name. Apple has announced that the full version of HyperCard 2.0 will be bundled with all new Macs. However, the scripting or programming mode of HyperCard 2 will have to be turned on by the user by removing an opaque button over the scripting choices on the home stack. Apple says the protection scheme will prevent totally new users from destroying or altering stacks unintentionally. NEC is preparing to release a new palm-top computer. The system will measure 7 inches by 10 inches and weigh in at under 5 pounds. It will be MS-DOS compatible and come bundled with software. The price under $1,500.
The 1990s brought the next great evolution: true mobility. Laptops were finally becoming practical, allowing professionals to carry their work and their data far beyond the office desk. This was the precursor to a far greater change. Then, in 2007, the world witnessed a major turning point that reshaped society. Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone.
3 things: a widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communications device. An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it? These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone. Let me talk about a category of things. The most advanced phones are called smartphones, so they say. And they typically combine a phone plus some email capability, plus they say it's the internet, sort of the baby internet, into one device. And they all have these plastic little keyboards on them. And the problem is that they're not so smart and they're not so easy to use. So if you kind of make a Business School 101 graph of the smart axis and the easy to use axis, phones, regular cell phones are kind of right there. They're not so smart, and they're, you know, not so easy to use. But smartphones are definitely a little smarter, but they actually are harder to use. They're really complicated. Just for the basic stuff, people have a hard time figuring out how to use them. Well, we don't want to do either one of these things. What we want to do is make a leapfrog product that is way smarter than any mobile device has ever been and super easy to use. This is what iPhone is. Okay? So, we're going to reinvent the phone. And what happens if you think of a great idea 6 months from now? You can't run around and add a button to these things. They're already shipped. So what do? It doesn't work because the buttons and the controls can't change. They can't change for each application, and they can't change down the road if you think of another great idea you want to add to this product. Well, how do you solve this? It turns out we have solved it. We solved it in computers 20 years ago. We solved it with a bitmap screen that could display anything we want, put any user interface up, and a pointing device. We solved it with the mouse, right? We solved this problem. So how are we going to take this to a mobile device? Well, what we're going to do is get rid of all these buttons and just make a giant screen. A giant screen. Now, how are we going to communicate this? We don't want to carry around a mouse, right? So what are we going to do? Oh, a stylus, right? We're going to use a stylus. No. No. Who wants a stylus? You have to get them and put them away and you lose them. Yuck. Nobody wants a stylus. So let's not use a stylus. We're going to use the best pointing device in the world. We're going to use a pointing device that we're all born with. We're born with 10 of them. We're going to use our fingers. We're going to touch this with our fingers. And we have invented a new technology called multi-touch, which is phenomenal. It works like magic. You don't need a stylus. It's far more accurate than any touch display that's ever been shipped. It ignores unintended touches. It's super smart. You can do multi-finger gestures on it. And boy, have we patented it. So, we've been very lucky to have brought a few revolutionary user interfaces to the market in our time. First was the mouse. The second was the click wheel. And now we're going to bring multi-touch to the market. And each of these revolutionary user interfaces has made possible a revolutionary product. The Mac, the iPod, and now the iPhone. So, a revolutionary user interface. We're going to build on top of that with software. Now, software on mobile phones is like, it's like baby software. It's not so powerful. And today, we're going to show you a software breakthrough. Software that's at least 5 years ahead of what's on any other phone. Now, how do we do this? Well, we start with a strong foundation. iPhone runs OS X. Now, why would we want to run such a sophisticated operating system on a mobile device? Well, because it's got everything we need. It's got multitasking. It's got the
We think there are going to be several 100,000 people lined up Friday night and Saturday morning just to have the first one, just for that cool factor.
The trick is getting your hands on one. David Pogue did, and as he showed us, step one is using your digits to unlock the iPhone's much hyped features, whether playing videos or even resizing photos.
You zoom in or zoom out by pinching or unpinching with your fingers. It's spectacular.
Well, at least it is the core design, from web surfing to a menu of your voicemails that look more like emails to Google Maps.
It's not true GPS, but it does show you each driving instruction.
To, oh yeah, the phone, which isn't exactly front and center. Why so much buzz about yet another personal device?
It's got everything you need, all wrapped up in one.
People are already waiting in line.
This device was revolutionary not just because it combined a phone, an internet communicator and an iPod, but because it introduced a seamless touch-based interface. Suddenly, the power of a computer was no longer tethered to a keyboard or a desk. It was in our pockets, constantly connected to the world via the mobile internet. This single device democratized computing power, turning every user into a creator and consumer of information, marking the true beginning of the modern mobile era. The evolution of computers certainly didn't stop with the smartphone. We then entered the era of ubiquitous embedded computing. This was powered by a new generation of affordable, accessible hardware. Microcontrollers such as the Arduino and powerful single-board computers like the Raspberry Pi placed high-level computing and digital control directly into the hands of students, hobbyists, and professional makers worldwide. The result is that computers are no longer limited to the screen on your desk or in your pocket. Instead, they are the silent intelligence running the infrastructure of our daily lives. They are embedded everywhere. They manage traffic lights, they fly increasingly sophisticated drones, they navigate autonomous cars, and they automate countless everyday smart devices that define the modern connected world. But the story of computers doesn't end here. Today, scientists are exploring an entirely new frontier: quantum computers. Unlike classical computers that use bits, quantum machines use qubits, harnessing the strange principles of quantum mechanics, superposition, and entanglement. In 2019, Google's Sycamore quantum processor performed a calculation in just 200 seconds, a task that would have taken the world's fastest supercomputer thousands of years. Though still experimental, quantum computers could one day revolutionize medicine, cryptography, and artificial intelligence. From the abacus to billions of transistors etched onto a fingernail-sized chip, the history of computers is more than machines. It's a story of human ambition, shaped by necessity, driven by curiosity, and fueled by dreams of a connected future. This journey has culminated in systems that are not just intelligent, but embedded everywhere. Today, virtually every machine, from factory robots to personal smartwatches, relies on compact, specialized computing to automate our world. And now, we stand at the edge of an immediate, explosive frontier: accelerated computing. The demand for complex artificial intelligence and large data processing is driving the creation of revolutionary hardware. Powerful new architectures, like Blackwell platforms, alongside purpose-built systems like the DGX SuperPod, are redefining the limits of computation. These next-generation machines use specialized processors to handle massive workloads, setting the stage for breakthroughs in scientific research, predictive modeling, and sophisticated AI development. The journey of computers is not finished. It has only just begun.